In this video, you'll learn the importance of putting yourself out there and not being afraid to fail in the culinary world, as well as the role that mentoring plays in cooking competitions. Welcome to 8 unedited minutes about mentoring. We're here at Culinary Fight Fest with Chef John. Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And I'd love to jump right in. When we were talking before, you mentioned that you're not professionally trained and you're learning from somebody very important to you in your life, and that's where your mentoring is coming from. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yep, so not classically trained at all. All of my culinary skills and culinary training comes from my mother. She is my mentor. So I started out being her sous chef, competing at World Food and various competitions, and now the roles are kind of reversed, and I'm head chef, and she's my sous chef today.
How did you get started with her? Was it ever since as far back as you can remember when you were a kid, or did it happen later?
No, we've always all liked to cook, everybody in our family. My mom actually won her way into World Food in 2015. And I just happened to kind of be in the area. I said, I'll come down, I'll watch you compete. And by the time I got off the plane, I had a voicemail that said, this is way bigger than I expected. You have got to cook with me. You don't have a choice.
Oh my gosh.
And that was honestly the first time that I had done any competing with anything. So that was my first experience with it. And it's just been a whirlwind since then.
What was that like? I mean, to get off a plane thinking you're watching and realize you're doing a little more.
It's a little nerve-wracking. I'd keep a calm demeanor on the outside, but the hamster tends to lose his mind internally.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Yep.
What's one lesson that really stands out that you learned from your mom about cooking?
Don't be afraid to fail. It's you may make something that you love and you put that out there, and then all of a sudden it's not something that's the judge's palate or the people's palate, something like that. And just don't get discouraged from it. Continue pushing the envelope, trying new things, try and come up with new flavors, and maybe you make something that I don't know if I'm going to put these two flavors together, and you try it, and it turns out that it's an award-winning dish.
Well, actually, I'd love to hear more about your award-winning dish.
Okay.
You talk about the bacon jam.
Yep. So bacon jam originally started as my mom's recipe, and I've kind of morphed it and tweaked it. Mine is very sweet.
Okay.
It's got a little bit of heat on the back end to it, but I mentioned it won the 2016 Bacon World Championship on the dish that we're actually making here today, with Tuscan rubbed beef tenderloin and smoked Gouda mashed potatoes. I've won competitions with it on a burger. I've won competitions, two competitions with it on a burger actually. Won competitions with it in mac and cheese. So I have people that call in and say, I put your bacon jam in an omelet, or I put your bacon jam with chicken.
That's what I was going to ask. Where do the ideas come from? Because that's a big part of collaboration, I would imagine.
Just, again, trying new things. Sometimes I get somebody that said that they put it on a hot dog, and not really something that I would think of. And that turns into kind of a twist on a gourmet hot dog, kind of like a food truck kind of dish. I've had people that said they put it in omelets. So again, trying to experiment and trying to do something on the breakfast side with it. Eggs and bacon go pretty well together. So it's just feedback from people that have bought it, feedback from people that have been to competitions and tried it.
So at this competition, is there a little bit of mentoring? Do you ever feel like you're mentoring your mom with some dishes, or is it always?
She's not the best at taking constructive criticism.
We'll delete that part of the video, like just snap.
Well, and she's mentored me and she's taught me everything. So it's a little intimidating for me to kind of give feedback to her on certain things. I'm not afraid by any stretch, but she takes pretty well to it. We're to the point now where she's been my sous chef in 4 competitions.
Okay.
Knock on wood, we've won the previous 3.
Nice.
So we have a pretty good track record. So she's accepting ideas that I have that there's usually a little bit behind them, and it's not just something completely off the wall that's not going to work.
What's the biggest, one of the most important, or what stands out most in your head, lesson that you learned from her?
Again, don't be afraid to fail, try new things, and just always be willing to kind of put yourself out there. Especially in competitions, especially if it's the first time, you want to put yourself out to the people or the judges, so they kind of understand a little bit about who you are.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean, who you are?
Again, not being classically trained, I'm not the most technically sound to poach eggs and make duck confit and things like that. I'm very much meat and potatoes.
Okay.
So that's the dish today is meat and potatoes. It may not look the prettiest, it may not be the fanciest, it may not be the most technically sound, but I like to think it's probably going to be one of the best ones that you're going to taste. And that's who I am, it's who we are. So when people try it, they understand a little bit about the simple home chef.
Oh, so they learned that's what you mean by getting to know you. It's getting to know you through the food and with stories like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I understand now.
Yeah. So if somebody who's a little bit more classically trained maybe tries to paint the picture, if they're classically trained in sweets, so they do sugar sticks and things like that, and kind of a nice presentation that way, and you kind of understand what their background is. And our background is very simple.
Gotcha. With today and tomorrow, what's one thing you're taking away as far as a lesson learned because of being in the Culinary Fight Fest competition?
Probably be ready for a whirlwind.
Go on.
It's again, coming from Carolina, I had a bit of a hike to get up here, and I mean it's just nonstop. So you have to take away from that. You have a plan and you have an idea of what you're going to do. And we got up here and most of our stuff made it. We were missing a couple of utensils on things, so we kind of had to MacGyver things a little bit. But my biggest takeaway is just expect it and kind of roll with the punches. So don't let you're missing a spoon that you need to serve something. Don't let that cripple what you're going to make.
What do you do? How do you keep your head together when the rat on the rat mouse hamster on the wheel starts to trip?
Hamster going crazy. Lots of pacing. I just kind of walk around in a circle. And I'm a pretty logical thinker, so I mean, we realize that we're missing something, or we don't have something, or we thought we were going to be able to do something and we can't. Mm-hmm. So we'll just kind of sit down, put our heads together. Okay, we were going to do this. We can't. How do we get to where we want to be?
Gotcha.
So, a lot of collaboration.
Well, collaboration, that's what I'm hearing from almost all the chefs.
Yeah, you can't be successful doing this with a my way or the highway. You might have a couple good dishes, but I mean, unless you have an entire menu full of stuff that is 100% yours, nobody else has done anything to it, you kind of have to be willing to take something from a competition that I was in, didn't win, but there was a technically challenging aspect to the dish that won. And I said, that's a great idea. I can twist that and kind of morph it into something. So collaboration that way, and again, the team sitting together and saying, what do we want to make? How do we make the best dish?
But it's you and your mom working, you work together on everything as far as the dishes and that.
Yeah, usually when we do something like this, we'll go out and we have a day in between for World Food. The whole family's together and we'll go out and everybody's sitting around having drinks and having lunch, and me and her are sitting there writing stuff out on cocktail napkins or the back of the menu, or how do we do this? How do we present this? How do we plate this?
So it's constant collaboration.
It's nonstop. And she lives in Michigan and I live in Carolina, so we get a lot of long distance collaboration. I'll do something and I'll take a picture and I'll send it to her. She'll do something and take a picture and send it back. We'll FaceTime and like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So
collaboration.
Nonstop.
Thank you so much for being here, Chef. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.